1976. Medellín, Colombia. A criminal empire is beginning to take shape, one that will soon become the most powerful trafficking organization in modern history. At its center stands Pablo Escobar, a ruthless and ambitious leader. He is not alone. He is surrounded by a circle of key figures: Carlos Leder, Gustavo Gaviria, José Gonzalo Rodríguez Gacha, and the Ochoa brothers, Jorge Luis, Juan David, and Fabio. Together, they forged a syndicate that would dominate the global cocaine trade throughout the 1980s and early 1990s. To maintain its grip on power, the organization relied on a brutal mix of violence and corruption, infiltrating state institutions by bribing politicians, judges, and security forces, while silencing opposition through bombings and assassinations. From its early days, the group pioneered large-scale production and established sophisticated routes from Colombia to the United States. By the early 80s, they were responsible for 80% of the cocaine entering the US, moving as much as 15 tons per day. Behind this vast smuggling operation stood the architect of the most critical supply lines, Carlos Leder, a dropout who immersed himself in the writings of Machiavelli and developed a controversial admiration for Mein Kampf. Leder began his career stealing cars and smuggling marijuana. However, a stint in a U.S. prison changed everything. There, he met George Young, whose experience in low-altitude flights inspired Leder to revolutionize cocaine transport. Obsessed with logistics and money laundering, Leder aligned himself with Escobar as the trade expanded. He eventually seized control of Norman's Cay in the Bahamas, turning the private island into a high-volume trafficking hub. By offloading massive shipments from Colombia and ferrying them into Florida and Georgia via small aircraft, Leder transformed drug smuggling into a high-volume, industrial-scale operation. While Leder engineered the routes, Pablo Escobar transformed the business into a global empire. Acting as the supreme leader, he controlled the entire supply chain, from the jungle laboratories to the streets of America. He coordinated the partnerships between financiers and enforcers, ensuring the organization operated like a vertically integrated enterprise. His defining strategy was the calculated blend of bribery and blood known as plata o plomo, silver or lead. This allowed him to manipulate law enforcement and exert influence over the state itself. Supporting this structure were the Ochoa Vasquez brothers. Coming from a wealthy, well-connected family, they provided the financial strength and business legitimacy the organization needed. While Escobar was the public face, the Ochoas acted as strategic coordinators, stabilizing alliances and managing the logistics that allowed the collective to function as a cohesive, highly profitable machine. Complementing this leadership was José Gonzalo Rodríguez Gacha, known as El Mexicano. A brilliant operational strategist, Gacha pioneered new routes through Mexico into Los Angeles and Houston. He was the man responsible for the infamous Tranquilandia, a massive complex of jungle laboratories. Beyond production, Gacha became the organization's primary military force, financing paramilitary groups to protect their interests with iron-fisted enforcement. As the empire's influence grew, so did the resistance from the Colombian state, led by Rodrigo Lara Bonilla. As Minister of Justice, Lara became one of the first high-ranking officials to expose the cartel's infiltration into politics. He dismantled assets and pushed for extradition laws directly challenging Escobar's immunity. The response was a declaration of war. When Lara refused to be bought, Escobar ordered his assassination in 1984. The murder of a sitting cabinet minister in Bogotá shocked the world and forced the government to escalate its pursuit. Yet, the violence only intensified. Escobar began systematically targeting anyone who stood in his way. Following Lara's death, Luis Carlos Galán emerged as the next great threat to the traffickers, a presidential candidate who refused to be intimidated Galán publicly rejected the narco-politicians and championed extradition to the United States. His popularity made him a realistic future president, a prospect that terrified the drug lords. In 1989, during a campaign rally in Soacha, Galán was gunned down. His death marked a turning point. It did not silence the resistance, but instead galvanized a national crisis and a final desperate crackdown by the government. The downfall was the result of relentless pressure, internal fractures, and a state that had finally reached its breaking point. With U.S. support, the leadership structure began to crumble. Rodriguez Gacha was killed in a military operation, and the Ochoa brothers, seeing the writing on the wall, surrendered to negotiate reduced sentences. Escobar became a man on the run. His escape from custody and his increasingly domestic terror tactics provoked the emergence of the Pepes, an alliance of former allies and rival enemies dedicated to his destruction. Isolated and hunted, the end came in 1993 on a rooftop in Medellín. With Escobar's death, the era of the monolithic empire ended. The centralized power structure collapsed, giving way to the Oficina de Envigado and other decentralized systems. The age of the kingpins was over, replaced by a more fragmented, bureaucratic form of organized crime that continues to haunt the shadows of Colombia today.